And all of my PPC efforts are going to drive my SEO results as well. It doesn't matter what they're clicking on, and they're still choosing you. That's the ultimate goal.
Having a good SEO foundation is absolutely vital.
Hey, all press is good press, right?
Oh boy.
I've seen the ups and downs of the industry, and I'm just happy to be on with you today. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. I'm very happy to have you, because the first time I met Alex in real life, and this is for real. Back then I think I was doing 10K. I don't know. I wasn't doing amazing, but I wasn't doing bad either. I was a small business owner at that time. And I met Alex in a McDonald's of Colorado, because my client, he was close by, and I didn't have too much time, and I don't know Colorado that well. But when I met Alex, my main problem at that point was client acquisition. I had a good idea on how to close people, but acquiring actual leads through any other form than SEO was difficult. Mainly because I did a lot of cold mailing, but I didn't know how to get the actual lead data. And Alex picked my business apart in a matter of 5 minutes. And when I got home, I implemented it, which allowed me to skyrocket in no time. I believe I even sent you at that point when I was starting to do well. I said, yeah, this shit really works. Yeah, he's amazing at what he does. But back then you were unfortunate, right? You had a car accident, and that got you some backlash, if I'm correct. Like put you on the back for a while.
Yeah, so I have something called vestibular disorder, which essentially your brain has all these filters so that you can like focus on things and whatnot. And all those filters got wiped out. So I had to rebuild all those filters. And so I wasn't able to be in front of a screen. I physically couldn't handle it for like 6 months. And that really changed the way that I did business. So
that must have sucked. But back then you were relying on another tool, right? One that you created, Directory Submitter, I believe it is, or what was that?
Directory Creator.
Yeah, Directory.
What's the name of the tool? Yeah, we rebranded to GeoPages. And the cool thing about that tool at the time, as you know, is it allowed us to build out multiple location pages with a click of a button. So it really saved a lot of time, a lot of effort.
It's funny because I think I used one of the first, like I bought your tool, obviously, because I know that if it's made by you, it's probably gonna work. But I actually tested it. And back then when I first tried it, because eventually I closed the site, I didn't really have any use for it. It was merely a test. I was ranking first for dentist plus city in every city of Belgium. But back then, Belgium, our dentists, they don't really rely on search engines. Like if you are a dentist, you're going to get leads here. So they don't really buy leads from anybody, and I don't even know if that's legal here. So I closed it down. But I was ranking first for dentist plus city in every single city of Belgium, and the site was getting a lot of traffic, but it was useless to me. So I closed it down. It was an amazing tool, but recently Search Engine Journal released an article, right, on doorway pages and stuff like that, which pretty much basically states that your tool will be pointless. What's your point on that?
Hey, all press is good press, right? If people are talking about it, people are searching for it. That's good for me. At the end of the day, do your own testing, see if it works for you. It works for me, still working great. I'm actually using the same tool going forward, and from a location page perspective, the focus that really makes a difference is the content. And so that's something that my tool doesn't do. It requires you to put your own content in, and that's where like some cool stuff like entity building and some like the AI keyword stuff that's coming out to really be to your benefit.
Oh, well, what I more so mean is they stated that Google basically made location pages the way they're usually created useless. Would you say that's still, would you say that's something that's actually true, or is it kind of well, Google spitting bullshit?
Like I said, it's all marketing, and all marketing is good marketing. I work with many, multi-million-dollar, multi-location businesses, and they all have location pages, and they're all doing really well. So
Yeah, I think location pages work well. They still do. They will still be relevant, but I don't think it's as simple as setting up the location pages. It's something actually your tool takes care of as well, is having a nice site structure. Having good internal linking is still fucking viable, even if you have like you need to have that. Otherwise, no matter what, your indexation is also gonna suck. Your site structure is gonna suck in general if you just create a bunch of orphan pages as location pages. That's not gonna do the trick.
right.
So yeah, site structure I think is very important, and I think a lot of people when they create location pages they neglect proper SEO. They think all I have to do is make a site page, like a location page, and that's it. There's way much more to it in the sense of you actually need to know how to structure your website, how to make sure your internal linking is okay, as you said yourself, entity, how to do your schema is so fucking important as well nowadays. Having a good SEO foundation is absolutely vital, no matter what tool you're using, and especially when it comes to location pages. So I think, yeah, they're losing their usefulness for those kind of people who just, yeah, all they do is change up the city, but they don't really do anything else except for that.
Well, you have to think outside of that location page too. Like, if you're trying to rank that location, right? The ultimate goal of that is to own that first page of that search. So
Yeah.
if you have video that's ranking, if you have a maps listing in the map app that you're ranking for, and you're organic, and you go down the list, the more places on that SERP that you can attain, so it doesn't matter what they're clicking on, and they're still choosing you. That's the ultimate goal. So thinking even beyond the website as a whole, looking at that search intent and dominating that search intent is more important as well.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because not that long ago, I actually, like, I play around a lot with Python, and not that long ago, I created a tool that, like, you don't need to make a new Google account to make a new channel. You can actually create a channel by just adding that channel on your account. So what I did is I changed certain factors programmatically wise on the video so that it's considered a new video. And what it would do is it would change also the file, like it would optimize the video, and then I would make a new channel also automatically, post the video to it with the city and stuff like that, playlist, and it would internal link all the playlists together eventually, and then upload the video to the playlist so that you would be ranking for every city as well, video wise, as well as the city. And that was something.
And then I challenge you to go one step further and do every city and every service that business offers as well. That's the other factor a lot of people don't play into, because from a search intent perspective, people are searching to solve a problem, right? And they're looking for that service in that city to solve that problem. So,
oh, definitely. I would say, like, from my tests, it turned out that it actually is quite good, especially indexing wise. We all know that YouTube is really good when it comes to indexing.
Google likes Google.
The main reason I didn't really continue to play around with that is clients are so picky on what they want out there, so they actually have to have a good video made. So I don't do that really. But I would say if you,
and the call to action on that video is very, very important, because a good video that's ranking doesn't matter if it has a bad call to action, your conversion numbers are going to be shit. And then at the end of the day, like, there's no ROI for the customer, the client. So
exactly. But in order to create the amounts of videos I would have to create for to satisfy my clients, it just didn't make no sense. But recently I actually started with some lead generation websites, and I'm going to apply it. And I can tell you that from my first test, it actually seems very interesting. Is that something you play around with YouTube?
yeah, 100%. Especially when I had my lead generation agency, I did a lot of very similar to the way that you're doing it. The difference is that I made the channel based on region, and then I separated accounts based on service. So I have an account for each service, and then I'd have channels based on each region for that service, and then within each channel region, I would have all of my cities.
Yeah, it makes a
for that service.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. That's something.
And then instead of creating new videos, you just take one video, and then what I do is I spin that video. You might end up spinning it 250,000 times to have 250,000 videos that you're uploading, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing that I'm changing was title, description, and tags.
Yeah, it's something similar that I'm doing as well. Which works very well. Now there's another.
And then like your closed caption. Are you playing with closed caption?
Not yet.
Stuff at all?
No, not yet.
I highly suggest that it affects a lot.
I've heard that. I haven't yet, because back then my tool, I got it working, got the code written nicely, but it wasn't scalable for me to keep playing with that. So I basically pushed it aside. As a result, we do manual YouTube silos for clients who need it, like who agree to, like who deliver the videos themselves and stuff like that. But other than that, I had no need for it. Nowadays, I'm like, as I said, I'm creating more lead generation websites, so it becomes more vital. And I've heard a lot about it, but I haven't yet been able to apply it. Especially because it just took too much time to get that done, which didn't make sense for me with all the client work that was going on. So yeah, I've heard great things about that. I've also heard great things about Twitter moments. Is that something you play around with?
I've been staying out of the social media game lately. Reason being is just it's an ever changing world, and the budgets that I demand just aren't there for social media at this time. So I feel like we're going more and more towards that. But it just purely from a financial perspective, I can demand more elsewhere. So that's why I haven't dove into the social.
Another funny thing that I've played around with is something I'm actually, now that I think of it, because I pretty much pushed it aside because I got it automated, but again, not scalable, is Patch. You know Patch, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, Patch is ridiculous. Like, a lot of people think it's some special kind of trick. It's ridiculously easy to get yourself on there. It ranks very well, really easy. But basically, you can just spin the article over and over again, optimize it based on parameters you preset, just change the city, add different videos the way we talked about, and you can basically automate the same thing for every city as well. Something I just thought.
The only caveat with Patch is the people that know about it and like it, I feel like they're a very heavy reliance on it. Yeah. And so it's a great tool, but you have to make sure that, moderation with everything. And that especially includes Patch, because it's really easy to go overboard with Patch.
Oh, definitely. It's something that we in the beginning used a lot because the results were there, like it ranked quickly. Clients love to see that. But after a while, we start to use it less because it's like you said, it's not a substitute for proper SEO. And I found that,
right.
Yeah, just because it's faster doesn't necessarily mean that it's something that should be your foundation of your strategy. We still do it. Obviously, that's you have to mark your checkbox, right? But I wouldn't say it's something vital that your strategy can't do without. It's just well, it's useful to have. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I would agree with that.
Something I should start playing around with because I think it's ridiculously easy to automate. The only difficult thing for somebody out of Europe, if you're watching and you're trying to make batch articles, is they only allow US IPs. I don't know if that's still the case, but back in the day they actually did. So as a result, just get a free VPN that does the trick. But yeah, that's something I could highly play around with. Huh. So, yeah, awesome. Got sidetracked there. um, Wikidata is another thing. Is that something you've been using?
I mean, it's a factor in research, but it's not something that I've been reliant on in any way, shape, or form. Where it comes into play more is with like entity creation.
Yeah, and I love um the whole entity hype that's going on right now. Because it's something that has been around for a while. Just people never really paid attention to it. I I think it's basically entities are this new thing, this old thing being rehashed as something new. I think it's always been around in their own shape and form. Just people start to apply it now, but it has been around for a while now.
The big difference that I would argue is just that like it's weighted heavier now.
Yeah,
That form of relevancy, entity relevancy, is now more heavily weighted, and that's why it's getting the spotlight it's getting.
yeah,
I again don't think that it's a magic bullet, and I don't think that that's the solution for every scenario. But it definitely plays a factor and is more weighted than it used to be.
yeah, exactly. And I love how you say it's not a magic bullet. It isn't. It's something, again, like it's one of those things that you need to get done, but it cannot substitute your entire strategy. And I think that's what's happening a lot nowadays. Is a lot of people, they hop in the SEO game. They hear about entity stacking, injecting entities. They hear about Google stacks, and they hear about CTR manipulation, and they start doing these things, but that's not a substitute for an actual strategy. Um, it's just
Well, that's
things.
the same with schema when schema had its big hype, right? And everybody's like, all you need is good schema. And it's like, it's not a solution. It's that is now weighted heavier. That is, you just need to take that into consideration.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Actually, Stephen Kang, he does something really cool that people should do is he has listener sites for every update so that he knows what to focus on more, to see what's weighted more heavily. Um, and I think that's amazing. I think that's what people should do instead of waiting until some guy says,
I think any agency should be doing proper testing and should have proper control sites out there for doing that. I 100% agree.
exactly. Like, for example, like I'm the kind of guy, I like courses in the sense of I like to pick out nuggets, of other people that I can start testing. But I never spent money on courses unless there's something I want. Like recently, I bought this filmmaking course because I think editing is really important as we hop into a more video-driven society. I'm not the kind of guy who wants to be left off the boat. Like I learn my share, and I think it's a valid skill to have. It's a really useful skill to have. And sure, I could outsource it, but I'm the kind of guy, I like to have a certain amount of knowledge about something before I outsource it to actually gauge the quality of something. But in SEO, the times that I will buy a course are very, very rare because yeah, I think who says it works? You gotta try that shit out and you gotta test it for yourself. And if you do enough testing for yourself, you don't need courses. Sure, if you're a beginner, you might find some useful courses like the lab, I would say, where you get taught a good foundational strategy, as you have to learn how to build the macro specifics of SEO. But in the end, it all comes down to testing, because you like, sure, certain strategies work, but do they work in your industry? Like, I can do shit in Belgium that you cannot do in the US, but I can also do certain stuff in the dumpster rental industry, let's say, that you cannot get away with in the medical industry. So you have to do a lot of testing as an SEO, right? I think if you're an agency and you're not testing, you're missing out.
I think you're doing a disservice to you and your clients if you're not testing.
Exactly, exactly. Speaking about clients, are you still doing client work?
I'm recently getting back into client work. So I haven't been in client work for years and years. And so I'm back in the client game, and yeah, it's good to be back. Everything from a 2020 scenario brought light to the need for marketing and how important an online presence is. And so that's really created a lot more opportunities in this space. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's certainly true that demand will continue to go up. Now, something I am very very interested in is why SEO? Like, why did you get down to do SEO? Like, why this specific? Like, you could argue that Google Ads is an easier start, right? It's faster results, thus an easier sell, in my opinion. Um, why SEO?
So I do both. And the reason I do both is because I offset results with PPC while SEO gets going. And then I can demand a higher total marketing budget if I acquire a PPC contract as well. And so the benefit there is that I'm managing more of a client's total marketing budget by doing both. And all of my PPC efforts are going to drive my SEO results as well. So it just made sense to do both. The reason that I focus on SEO, and more specifically technical SEO, is because it's so lagging in the industry. People not focusing on doing technical SEO, and whatever they're calling SEO is, throwing links or writing a bunch of articles, and like that's not SEO. And so being able to come in, especially with companies and boards and whatnot, and explain, Google's an algorithm, and you can reverse engineer the results that they're rewarding. And this is the roadmap from a data first perspective to get you results long term, where it's not a faucet like PPC that as soon as you turn it off, you stop getting results. That's really interesting from an ROI perspective for companies.
Yeah, and that leaves the question of why marketing? Like, have you always been into marketing, or what was your initial career path?
I was a graphic designer. That was my initial career path. So I started doing logos for businesses, and found out that all these logos that I were doing was primarily for websites. So I learned how to code and got on websites, and then found out that all these websites that I were building for all these clients, nobody was finding them. And so then I got into SEO, learned about SEO, and I was like, oh, okay. And I went down the whole marketing rabbit hole, CRO and funnel design and all this other stuff. And so now I have a really well-rounded perspective on marketing, and I'm able to kind of bring all of that to a client and look at things not only from a sales perspective, but an SEO perspective, and really be able to achieve the ROI that they're looking for.
Yeah, so you have a fairly good understanding of branding then, right? Because
correct. Yeah, that's where my roots are in. So
because I mean, you can be good at SEO, you can be good at Google Ads, but in the end, without a proper branding strategy, I feel that marketing should be done with longevity as a main goal. In the sense of, it's really cool to rank and all of that, but if it's not gonna last, if the results are not gonna last, I admire companies like Kellogg's or Cola, and The main reason is because in reality, if they would stop marketing, we would still drink that nonsense. And why? Because they have such a strong brand. And of course, you want to keep revenue going, so you're going to keep doing the marketing, but having a good story to tell to your people is absolutely vital. So having a good understanding of that is key. What you say, it all starts with graphic design, or even before that.
I'd say even before graphic design, I was just really interested in being able to tell a story.
Yeah.
Kind of coming back to the video editing aspect, you know, I've played around with video editing and actually done video for clients and that kind of thing, because really it just comes down to being able to tell a story. And that translates whether it's SEO, PPC, branding, what have you. All you're doing is you're telling a story to a customer, whether that's a sales story or an awareness story. It's that journey and being able to develop that and see how that pans out has always been like a fun challenge for me.
I think, yeah, telling a story is vital. And I think if you respect yourself as a marketeer, you have to start dabbling with video, right? Blogging, we can say what we want. Like, sure, there's some people who gonna pull up $1 million case studies of blogs doing well. That's great, but I do think that the majority of people would rather consume a video than a blog post. And there's a difference between a good edited video and a bad one. There's a difference between, actually, that's funny because I went to see Avatar 2 yesterday, or 2 days ago. No, it was yesterday. And for the first time after a long time, I was actually happy with the movie. Because nowadays what happens a lot is people make movies who are too graphically like, wow, this is amazing, right? But the plot absolutely sucks. Like the story sucks, right? Like it's a like, wow, the graphics insane, but the story doesn't make sense. And um I think that takes, like, sure, the movie looks physically very good, but the story sucks, so it makes the movie less interesting. And I think the same applies to the way you market yourself. If you're creating really cool graphics, if you're creating really cool video, that's great. But if your story sucks, yeah, people are not gonna hang around. That's, at least that's my take from it. Because
I would say that it directly correlates to sales as well, right? So like the storytelling to sales, because ultimately with sales, what you're doing is you're telling a story, which is your offer, right? You're telling them a story of what things could be if they chose to work with you and directing them on their path, right, towards a product or a service that you're offering. And so depending upon how well you tell that story and how relevant that story is to them, and how you provide that urgency, is going to craft, how good that plot is.
oh, exactly. I would say having a good story to tell is the foundation of your business. Which
100%.
yeah, which I find a lot of people, just in general, if SEOs, they tend to focus too much on just SEO. And I think Marty Marion, actually, what he is doing, I think that's really important, because brand positioning can also be done with proper SEO. And having a good idea of what you're doing SEO wise could actually affect your brand development. So as an SEO, if you're just focusing on SEO, I think that's some arrogance that will, well, show itself in a form of ignorance. You have to, even if you don't like those fields, you have to at least have some basic knowledge in those things to be dangerous in them. You have to read at least 1 or 2 books on it, so you have a good understanding, because otherwise you're gonna, yeah, it's gonna make you a better marketer, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, and there's direct correlation, right? So like the better brand position you have, better brand awareness, your CTR is directly affected. And so like there are KPIs that you can actually directly correlate and track in regard to actual effects and results from doing those things. And so there are literal benefits to doing them as well. It's not just one of those things where it'd be nice. No, it actually does affect things.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the other thing, right? It's you said it, it's tracking. A lot of people, and that's why I think a lot of SEOs are still in business, they don't track, you know. They like Ahrefs. It's really cool. I'm a big fan of Ahrefs, SEMrush. They're really cool tools, but they're not a substitute for Google Analytics, you know, and Search Console, in the sense of, if you're not making the money back, if you are not tracking your investments as a business owner, then that's very dangerous. Especially as an SEO, you need to know what is making money and what's not, so that you can adjust. You need to know where the clicks are coming from, how high your bounce rate is, your conversion rate. You know, all of that's very important. And I think not tracking enough is actually a dangerous thing. But I also think that is what sets an expert apart from a beginner, is the ability to track, read data, and translate that data into
adjust accordingly. Yeah. 100%.
I think that's a very important thing. Which is funny,
and I think not only are not enough people tracking enough data, but the big thing is responding to that data in a timely manner.
Exactly.
A lot of people, even if they have the data available, they don't respond to it in a timely manner, and they aren't able to take that action or implement quick enough. And that's why they get dominated from their competitors.
Yeah, it's actually this girl who is doing really impressive work on Google Analytics. It's I think her name is pronounced Kyle Larkin, but I've been following her. She posts a lot about Google, right? She even got mentioned by Google Analytics. It's very impressive, and I think, yeah, if you like, first of all, it's the setup. You know, make sure it's set up properly, so that you are tracking what it is you need to track, what you feel is important for you to track. But also, do know that most of
I would argue whatever you think is enough tracking isn't enough, and that you should set up to be over tracked, over analyzing, have too much data, because that's the problem that you're going to have. Because most people, 95% of people, businesses, clients out there, do not have enough data that they're tracking.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say is, you know, don't assume that what you're going to track is the right data to track. You know, you have to go really in depth, and you got to make sure that it's readable in the sense of you understanding it. And it might be tricky in the beginning, but you know, that's what's going to help you later on in the game. Because I feel a lot of people use words like testing and research, but they are unable to actually read the data of those tests. They just think it works because Ahrefs is showing it so, and as a result, they say it works. I don't think that's exactly true. As a point, in fact, is I was taking on this client who had an SEO doing work for him, and he was doing relatively well on Ahrefs, but his clicks remained the same over the entire year. You know, exactly the same. And most of the clicks were actually branded clicks, so they were searched for his brand. So in reality, he wasn't doing that well search, like organic presence wise, in the sense of showing up for things that could make him a lot of money, except for the branding things. But Ahrefs showed differently. So you could argue that, you know, yeah, sure, he's doing well on that form, on that side, but it's like, you need to know where the data is coming from, whether it's a credible source or not, and you need to understand what's going on, you know, because he wasn't doing that great, and by just adjusting a little bit, he's going up again. But yeah, if he wouldn't have read his Google Search Console, or well, if I wouldn't, and checked out his Google Analytics, then he would just be stuck there thinking he was doing amazing, which he wasn't. You know, his organic presence in general was it remained the same. It's just that his branding is responsible for majority of his clicks. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
I think the more granular you can get and know your numbers more granularly, the better your position.
exactly.
Because at the end of the day, a lot of marketing agencies, a lot of marketing freelancers are really doing educated guesses more than any actual
Exactly.
proper, roadmaps. And so if you know your number, you're not making a guess of any kind, educated or not. You
Exactly.
know exactly what needs to be done in order to achieve your result. And so that's again why I always fall back to like a data first approach.
Exactly. And I
Because data
totally
is
agree.
smarter than all of our guessing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love data. Like I'm a analytical guy, but I will ignore data completely when it's something for me. Like the introverted business experience, I don't look at numbers, you know, I don't look at the data. The reason being is I don't care. The good point to make is one time, and I don't know if you remember this because it was way in the beginning when I first started talking with you. You actually gave me some advice. You said, Brent, you need first start with white label SEO so you can already make money and then you can learn the craft. But back then I was practicing SEO on bloggers, you know, on Blogspot. And I had this um, one blog that was doing pretty decent, but I never really looked at the data. And then I didn't have to because in the end it went viral because some guy picked it up. You know, I think it did like at some points you need to look at data and then other points you don't. In the sense of investment wise, always look at data. If it's something you're genuinely passionate about, don't look at what the cost is gonna be because it's gonna fucking demotivate you, you know? So I will never look at data when it comes for me, but when it's for clients, always. And the reason being is that I cannot risk in their name, but I can make risks for me because I obviously know what I am capable of. But for clients, you don't have the responsibility to take risks in their name, you know? So I would say data is great, but you can also, if it's for yourself, if you're trying to start a business or something like that, it might be better to ignore numbers till they're significant enough to actually read, in the sense of otherwise you're going to be demotivated if you find out that you're only having 6 clicks a week. You know, sure, that's going to be demotivating. But what if one of those 6 clicks is actually some influencer in your industry that really likes what you're doing? So I think data is amazing, but you cannot start looking at data until it's significant enough to read, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I want to go back to that you made a quick comment about is white labeling first. That's something that I think not enough is said. And I think a lot of people, especially new agencies and freelancers transitioning into the agency space, need to look at more heavily because a lot of the times we have people and agencies out there that are doing SEO that shouldn't be doing SEO. And we're doing a disservice to the industry and to our clients as a whole by doing that. And I know the trend right now is to, fake it till you make it and, have someone else pay for your way to learn how to do something properly. I completely disagree with that. I think it's a terrible, terrible way to go. That if you're not confident in doing SEO, you should not be the one actually delivering. And that's why white labeling is having someone else deliver under your name that actually knows what they're doing and actually has systems, processes, and tools and testing in place in order to guarantee a good result for your client is really, really important. And that gives you the ability to focus on actually building your front end, your sales, your offer, your brand, and get the business part of your agency actually established without having to worry about the delivery initially.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And just to like, in a lot of cases, it's like you say, a lot of people they start to learn a craft on somebody else's paycheck. And sure, you are going to learn, like you are going to make mistakes, but if your mistakes are going to make your client lose money, that's something that can happen. It can't, like you gotta be confident enough that, like, sure, you are going to mess up with missing a title tag here or making an over optimization there, right? But you cannot start doing like, oh, I think this technique looks very interesting, I'm going to put it in my strategy, so I'm going to apply it for every client. And then you start to see their organic presence totally like loosen up, like it's going to disappear. And you cannot do that on somebody else's paycheck. That's why I agree. Like when you told me to do white label first, I actually was about to close my first client in that week. I had a client line up for 900 a month, which was for me at the time, like I was at zero, so it was huge. But this other guy came along. I'm not going to name him because he's been well, he's a troublemaker in the industry. But he told me, yeah, Brent, you know what? I'm going to teach you SEO. And I was stupid enough to actually ditch my client for it, as I was instructed by him. As a result, I learned nothing. So I would say it's very true. Start off with white labeling. Use the money you make to do your own testing, to educate yourself on websites, on assets you create yourself. And worst case scenario, you're going to run one of your websites into the ground, and that's great. That means you've learned something. Best case scenario, you just create an asset that's going to make you money, whether it's an affiliate website, a lead generation website, or a blog with AdSense on it. It doesn't matter. So I think that's indeed the best way, because otherwise it's very risky. And I think that's the risky part about SEO is if you make mistakes, it doesn't always show immediately. In fact, I am in an industry, one of the agencies I own is in an industry where the common thing is they start spamming the websites with money robot, and they do fairly well for 6 months. And then they go down. But by the end of 6 months, well, the guy's already hopped off because the customer's like, yeah, I'm ranking, I don't need you anymore. And then they get run into the ground, and then they contact the same dudes again. Why? Because they suddenly lost their organic presence. They're not educated on the field, so they think like, yeah, all right, I need my presence back. You can't do that, like your client, this is actual lies you're playing with, so you cannot go testing on somebody else's expense. I totally agree. Yeah, that's actually
I
something.
guess that's a question that I have for you, Brent. What is your opinion on a client that you have that canceled the contract with you? Do you just stop work and leave everything that's been created?
No.
Or do you pull links? Or that, I mean, that's a big industry question as to what the proper solution there is.
No, so I actually
I'm always curious to ask.
The way I run my agencies, they are very reputation based in the sense of, sure, I run Facebook ads for acquisition, cold mail for acquisition, even LinkedIn outreach for acquisition, and that works great. But all my agencies are reputation based, and your reputation reputation building just doesn't start with the client signing on. It also is with the client signing off. It could be a variety of reasons for the client signing off. And if you're going to be like, yeah, okay, you're signing off, I'm taking it all back. No, I actually go a step further. I monitor the clients for like 3 to 4 months after, even longer in most cases, and I will guide them along. In some cases, when I see something that has to be done, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to fix this for you for free. The reason being is, you could argue that nothing is free in this world, and that's very true, because if I fix that and they are happy with the fix, then I'm a fucking hero in their eyes. There's a reason that all my agencies, I'm not even kidding, they all have 5-star reviews and none of them are fake. And the main reason for that is customer support is so important to me. I'm there to make people money, and when they sign off, like, it's a volatile economy right now. They have to hop off sometimes. I mean, so like one of my agencies is in a very seasonal business. It's very normal for them to sign off. and you cannot go pull stuff. In fact, I often have clients come to me with, yeah, my Google ads are all canceled because the guy, he actually undid all the work. And I'm like, why would you do that? That is your moment to shine. It's not just when the client signs on, it's also when they sign off. That's your moment to shine. It's to show how mature you are when somebody signs off, and how you're going to take that work, like, are you going to,
well, especially with PPC, because all that historical data is going to directly affect you starting up again. Losing all that is huge.
Yeah.
No, I was just curious as to your reply. I 100% agree. I think customer service should be the cornerstone of every successful business, and that's something that, especially in internet marketing and SEO specifically, that you don't see nearly as often. And so it's a breath of fresh air to hear that. I mean, and it's honestly something that I wish more businesses did adapt.
I think it's vital. Main reason is that you try to be an authority in your industry, and I don't really believe in ruling by fear, if you know what I mean. Like, in a lot of cases, a lot of people think, and I see this very often nowadays, is guys have this alpha male complex. I don't buy that shit. I love being the kind guy. The reason why is somebody who is happy and helping everybody is far more approachable than that mean loser on the side who's like, yeah, I'm ranking bitches. Yeah. Obviously you're not going to hire that guy, like, I have this old
you get more.
What? Go ahead.
You get more with honey than you do vinegar, right?
Exactly.
That's the old thing.
Exactly. Like an old partner of mine, all he does is complain about competition. Why would you do that? Be friendly, be kind. I never say a bad word about any competitor of mine. Main reason why is how you portray yourself in the open. It has to be genuinely you, right? And I'm not a troublemaker. I don't like trouble. I don't like picking fights. And I would say that makes me far more approachable because I don't have a biased opinion on my competitors. I like them because I believe it's better to win together. And I think a lot of people.
And I think that's the general. That's being able to win together is something that generally you see at the top of the industry. That we all have that same mindset.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've been through high school. You should quit the childishness. Like, stop being a kid. Yeah. Like, if somebody's doing better than me, that motivates me. Like,
100%.
Yeah, that's just who I am. But it's not that I envy them. It's not that I'm like, oh, this guy makes more money than me. Fuck that. No, I love that. I will ask him, why are you so successful? I would love to beat you. But in a good manner, because it's Gary Vee actually said this.
I'm the guy that's rooting my competition on.
Right.
I'm like, hey, if you're doing better, that directly affects me. That's more motivation, not only from my side, but that also means that that's a positive for the industry, right?
Exactly.
And so, yeah, no, I'm all about rooting that on.
Exactly. Like, yeah, on the field you're wearing your team's jersey, but once you step off, you gotta hug your enemy. Like, you gotta hug the person you were playing against, because that's when you leave the battlefield. That's important. And it's like you say, yeah, you gotta root on your competition. Hell, if my competition is doing bad, I am the first to ask, hey, can I help you out? And I will help them out completely free, because I think that's very important. It's more than just money. It's also, can you go to bed feeling all right? Like, I get more satisfaction out of helping somebody than out of receiving a paycheck. Sure, money is important, but helping in general, being who you are, having a good mental state is also very important to be in the business and do it for a long time. Longevity is important.
Most definitely.
I think that's the majority. Like, that's the main issue, is people, they burn bridges too quickly, and as a result, the industry they're in becomes a hell to be in the sense of they hate being there because everybody's so negative. yes, because if you express yourself negatively constantly, you will attract people who are negative as well. Because no guy who respects himself and is positive is gonna hang around you. They don't.
Right.
It's actually something successful people apply is they will actively cut out negative people because that positive energy keeps them going. And that is true. Like, do you know how much responsibility a business owner has to deal with? We cannot get your daily drama to deal with like as well, that's too much to carry. So you gotta cut off the people who bring a load of baggage. You can't carry that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things that specifically agency owners have um, implementing is being able to cut that out, because there is such a tendency for drama and for combative competition in the industry against every variation and feature within like the internet marketing world. You know, PPC guys don't like SEO guys, and SEO guys that do one thing don't like the other thing, and like there's always drama to be had if you're looking for it. But if you rise above that and ignore the drama and actually focus on what matters, like that group of people is going to propel you beyond what you could ever think is possible.
Yeah, actually, to prove that point for people listening is I recently went into another industry. I'm not gonna say which industry because I don't like sharing that all the time. Um, but I knew I couldn't compete with this agency yet, in the sense of they were really established authority figures. I knew that my skills SEO wise were superior, but their web design was superior to mine because I don't offer web design. So stepping into that industry, like starting offering web design, wouldn't make sense for me. As a result, I focused on SEO and pay-per-click, and I genuinely helped out these guys. Whenever I found a flaw in their SEO, I said like, hey, change this. Here are some processes, start applying that. After 2 weeks, these guys contact me like, hey, do you do white labeling? And now they're sending me customers consistently. Suddenly, my competitor has become a business partner of mine, because suddenly my competitor, by just being nice to them, by helping them, genuinely helping them, they are making me money. And I think way too many people think like, oh, I gotta fight instead of I have to focus on the end game. And that's where it's at, the end game. Yeah. Will you say you had a lot of that going on when you started out? A lot of people picking fights with you because you were doing fairly well?
Oh, 100%. I mean, my theory is if you don't got haters, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And so anytime you see people duplicating your stuff, imitating stuff, the greatest form of flattery, right? Then you're on the right track. And I've never been one to really like fall into like the traditional way of doing things. I've always looked at it from a logical approach, hence the data first approach that I take. And if it doesn't make sense, I'm like, all right, so let's reevaluate things. Why? I'm not going to just do something because somebody says to do it. And I'm not a great follower in that regard. And so that's always kind of set me apart and opened me up to a lot of that competition or a combative competition. And so being able to not only have a little bit tougher skin, but also make sure that my priorities, my focus are in the right place in order for that not to affect me has been a very big learning curve, especially from when I first started back in 2006.
Yeah, I think having a tough skin is really important in general when you do business. Like you're gonna get a lot of heat, especially if you do well. You gotta be able to manage that heat. And if you can't, like a lot of people, they're like, yeah, you haters gonna hate, but they are actually getting salty about the haters. No, you're going to get a lot of hate, and that's a good thing because that means you're being noticed. You just can't respond to them in a hateful manner. You gotta be able to take that on your chin and just be the nice, genuine guy who you are, if that's who you are at least. Because otherwise you're going to blow up your persona, and nobody likes the mean guy who is taking fights with everybody. So yeah, that is gonna happen.
It's also what you focus on too. If you focus on all the haters and you focus on all the negative comments and all the
Exactly.
keyboard warriors out there, and that's what your focus is going to be, is on negativity. And so
Yeah.
making sure that your focus and your priorities are in order, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and the more time you spend on answering people like that is time you lose growing your business. So
Correct.
yeah, it's actually something a friend of mine runs a social media company, and recently she lost all her clients, right? Because it's a seasonal business. But I asked, like, yeah, what are you doing? Like, audit your day for me. And she most of the time was fulfillment. The thing is, if you are fulfilling, that's time where you're not making money. You already made money on that fulfillment. You should outsource or able to systemize your fulfillment in a way that it costs you less time so that you can focus more on the acquisition. That's why you grow a team. Thing is, she was doing all the fulfillment herself as a causation. She didn't actually get any more new business. How you spend your time is very important, and those 5 minutes answering your haters is not going to seem significant, but if that's 5 minutes a day throughout the year, you're going to lose a whole bunch of days. You cannot go ahead and do that. You have to focus on your own business, and focus on making your business grow. And that's why auditing your day, focusing your time where it's important to spend it. Rich people, they want to spend money to save more time, but that's with a reason. It's not because they are going to hop to the Bahamas and just lay there. No, they're using their time accordingly to do the more important tasks. You cannot like that. That's why you cannot be preoccupied with hating on haters on the internet. They are there. There's always going to be some. Focus on the good stuff that makes you more money, that makes you grow. It's also going to grow your hater pool, but that's normal. Yeah.
So one thing that I would also comment is in regards to like system, what you touched on. Your friend with your social media company that has a seasonal business, she did some sales and is now doing delivery, and now because she hasn't been doing sales, doesn't have anything else to deliver on.
Yeah.
That's the common theme, regardless of industry or regardless of service offering. You see that a lot of the time. Businesses going out and get some clients, or they get some work, or they do some freelance, or whatever the case may be, and they work on finishing it and turn around and they need more work, right? And so that cycle, a lot of big agencies are in that same cycle, right? And so that's why my fundamental white label first approach is build your sales system. So you're constantly having that lead flow, your delivery is taken care of. Once you have that lead flow taken care of, you can replace that white label with an internal team, build it up. Now, if you've already got sales and marketing on the front end taken care of, customer service and delivery is taken care of. Now you as the business owner are not A, part of the process, and B, can work on the business, not in the business. And that's where you're able to be the visionary and look at, hey, here's new opportunities. Here's a strategy that we can look at. And then you have teams and processes in place in order to implement those.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Okay. Something just happened. That's why literally my ground shakes. But yeah, I totally agree. It's very important to have a good system in place, and especially if you're not somebody who is gifted at systemizing, because not everybody is. Um, don't overwhelm yourself by doing it all at once. That's gonna be very difficult. Even if you are the greatest at your craft, you have to have leads flowing in. Only then you can start focusing on delivery. But if you don't actually have your acquisition funnel set up, yeah,
you don't have anything to do. Yeah,
exactly.
And that's where you talked about courses and self-development a little bit earlier. That's where I look at courses and self-development as an opportunity to essentially save time more than anything else. Looking for those nuggets that save me time. Because if I can spend time with somebody that's been doing something successfully that I want to learn for the last 20, 30, 50 years, and I can get that divulged down into like a 2-day, intensive with this person, or if I can read a book that completely covers something that I need to learn that would normally, you'd have to have a career in. What that does is that saves that time to implementation, whether that is a course or consulting or a book. I highly value that self-development path, because the amount of time it's going to take you in order to go out and learn everything on your own and do it all on your own is going to be so exponentially greater than if you were to just spend the money and implement things properly the first time based off of proven methods.
No, totally, I agree. We're running short of time, so I'm going to let you go. But I want to thank you very elaborately. Like, thank you so much. It was great to have you on. It has been a while. Congratulations on your marriage, by the way. I've like you're
Thank you
for a
so
while
much.
now. That's amazing. I'm glad to see that things are moving well into in the right direction. Is there anything you want to tell to the people who are listening?
Uh, just if you have any questions about systemization or technical SEO, or if you want any additional help with any of that, I'm Alex C Barr. I'm on a bunch of different social platforms. You can go to alexcbarr.com, book a time to chat with me. I'm more than happy to help see how that implementation works, either in your agency or your business. And at the very least, I can point you in the right direction.
For people listening, if you haven't been paying attention in the beginning, I actually had a chat with Alex, which, well, didn't only just help my business to go to the next level, but also helped me as a business owner. Sometimes you have to be told what you're doing wrong and been shown that there's a different approach. Definitely worth your while. Definitely. Now, Alex, thank you so much for jumping on. It means the world to me, and I can't wait.
Well, thank you again for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh boy.